2025 has been a very pivotal year in so many ways. A lot of venues gone out of business completely. It's just been one thing after another in LA. So a lot of venues have actually been suffering, and the events industry is changing by the day because of it. One of the most important things as we evolve, as the industry changes, has been adaptability and flexibility. How can you be more flexible and go from a place of adaptation and not be so rigid?
So I'm here today with Farah. We're at the Lillian, actually. Farah does all the sales for all of our venues that are under the management company Don't Be Sour. She's amazing. I can attest to it. What she does is mind-boggling. I couldn't do it. So I bow down to your expertise and whenever it comes to sales for venues. But overall, we wanted to kind of go through, I guess, sales, some of your background. I mean, you've been in the industry forever, just kind of seeing your thoughts on event sales. Obviously, things are changing. People are booking events differently. How can, I guess, a venue or somebody who's runs a venue needs to book events at their space? How can they improve? And how would you think about event sales in like 2025?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely changing a lot. Thank you, Ewan. I appreciate the intro. And like you said, I have been in this industry for a long time, so I have been able to see the changes as they're happening, especially in 2025. I am part of different event groups, event sales groups in LA. And we all talk about this a lot and how 2025 has been a very pivotal year in so many ways. Not only have a lot of venues gone out of business completely due to everything starting from the pandemic and the residue and the stickiness of what that entails, all the way to the strikes that hit LA, the Hollywood strikes, then the LA fires, then the ICE raids. It's just been one thing after another in LA. So a lot of venues have actually been suffering, and the events industry is changing by the day because of it. So one of the most important things as we evolve, as the industry changes, has been what we call adaptability and flexibility. Really coming from a place of what is going to be the differentiator in your venue that is going to get you more bookings, but also how can you be more flexible and go from a place of adaptation and not be so rigid?
I think the way that you worded it on one of our many calls that we've had was, how can we meet, like, we can book your event, but the only way that we will be able to achieve the things that you want is by meeting you making sure that our needs and your needs are met. And that's the way that most venues and businesses have functioned for a long time, is that they set up their set pricing. They're very rigid. They have a specific type of event that they like to book. And with an industry that I think is becoming more dynamic, you have different sorts of events. I mean, what is now becoming a huge factor for our business, brand launches and influencer events and things like that, especially being in LA, it's just like, I guess the trend that I would say I'm seeing is we are doing more bookings because we are taking the time to meet people where they're at, and instead of forcing them into where we're at and our rigid sort of pricing and what we want. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, you are going to always have those, big event producers, experiential event producers, corporate companies that have the big budgets, right, to host their events. But for every one of those, there's like 20 of the ones that are just, the mom's 70th birthday party, the bridal shower, the small, intimate 50-person wedding. We're seeing a lot in the wedding industry of those smaller scale pared down events where they're not inviting, the cousins and all the extended family.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, especially in LA, everything has gotten so much more expensive. Everything from labor obviously,
Yeah.
with the actual cost of goods, like the booze, the food, the catering, everything has gone up in pricing for all the different variables. So we have to figure out how to stretch the budget and how to, like you said, meet people where they are and see what is it that we can offer you based on your budget.
Yeah. And I think that point being like in sales, it's our job to, and I've always harped on this, like usually if you don't book an event, it's either because your space just wasn't a good fit or you didn't do a good enough job actually listening and understanding to the needs of the client. Like when you're walking from the point that you first meet them or even communicate with
Exactly.
them via email, all the way to the point that you've walked through the space and you sit down and you have a contract in front of them and you need them to sign to in order to basically say, hey, I'm going to do this event with you. That entire process, or there's, I call them like story points or moments where people say, you know what, I can see this being a good fit because of this specific reason. That's really what you're looking out for. And when you hear it, it's like light bulbs go off because those are the word, that's the exact wording that you need to tie back in when you go, this is the reason that you should sign this. And this is the reason that we should work together. It's because I took the time to understand what you wanted, and thus it makes it easier for
And it's not only a really good point, but I have so many examples. Even just yesterday, I did a walkthrough for a person who is planning their 30th birthday. And, half of the time, actually it was today.
Oh, it's all
The
blending
walkthrough was
together.
today.
Uh-oh.
So, and the thing is, sometimes is it just really comes down to that interaction with the person that you're dealing with, right? With the client. They want to know that at the end of the day, it is a real human connection where it is a person that has what you need, an event venue for their special occasion. But there's a real human factor there. They're not just trying to swindle you. They're not trying to like charge you, something unreasonable for the type of event that you're hosting, all things, being equal. And so 90% of our conversation was actually about everything else. It was about, how the world is going and why we should celebrate a 30th birthday and go all out because we don't know what's going to happen next year. And, where we see ourselves traveling over the next few months and where we were just at last month. I was in Colombia. So I think people want to know and people want to connect at a human level. And it's like, listen, we're going through so much in the world right now. So
Yeah.
it's nice to be able to, for every interaction that you have with a potential client and somebody looking at your venue to book, for them to feel like, okay, this is like a person that I can actually see myself having a drink with. I'm more likely to want to, if the venue style is what they're looking for, they're more likely to book.
Yeah. Aside from likability, because I mean, you can train people all day on that. I'm sure people want to know like the tactical nitty gritty things. Everyone wants a tactic in order to get more bookings or convert better. I guess what have been things that have helped you kind of book events or close people faster when it comes to actually like going from a point of somebody like being a lead who's basically submitted their information online or called you to actually like pen on paper, we're ready, this is a done deal, we're locked in for a day?
I think there's a few factors. One, I am very, very good about getting back to people on time and responding to people's inquiries and all of the leads in a very systematic, timely fashion. So I try to get back to everybody within less than 24 hours, which is, from what I hear, not that common in the industry, to my surprise.
I mean, you would think that response time would be good, but
Yeah.
we on the other side of this, we run a company that deals with venues, and we sometimes can't even get into contact with them. That's usually a sign that, like, if when we're working with you can't get in contact with you, think about vice versa with the clients. It's a little bit and people do care, right? People associate, even before they've actually signed and booked, you're not being responsive, then they must be so concerned about after. Like if you're not getting back to people quick, there's you're kind of toast.
And listen, we're about to go into the heavy, busiest season of the year, but I think it is staying on top of what people's needs are. But also, one thing that has helped a lot is dynamic pricing.
How has dynamic pricing affected how we sell events? I mean, I can tell you from before working with you to after, we went from strictly offering like this is our space rental cost. You're either going to pay it for a weekday and a weekend, and you're either going to pay it or you're not going to book with us. Now we're way more flexible, I would say, with all of our venues. And it's not to say that we still don't care about our margin and we don't care about how we price our events. But again, going back to the theme of meeting people and their needs, their unique needs, that's what we really work on.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, right? Like, it's not the same to host a 50-person event as it is to host a 200-person event, first of all.
100%.
Second of all, especially nowadays, with the type of venue, right, which is going to be a big deciding factor. Some types of events are going to have a different time horizon. So if you're in the wedding industry, you're going to be booking your venue maybe a year from now, maybe even a year and a half from now, maybe at least 6 months from now, right? But if you have the venue available, for example, in the next 2 weeks, and somebody wants to do an event in the next 2 weeks, why wouldn't we allow the opportunity to close that event and to book that event if the time frame works for us, but also we can be a little bit more flexible with the budget to close it within that 2-week period? That makes a lot of sense for us. And, for us, booking an event in a short time horizon is going to be better than not booking an event at all in that short time.
I 100% agree. I think some venues get really caught up on their pricing.
Yeah.
It's very common. And I think learning to be flexible while still putting bounds on it is one way that you definitely can drive sales. And yeah, I would say just set like strict ranges around like, okay, outside of this range, we're going to charge this amount. But if it's a short window, we can
especially if it's a low touch event, if there's not a lot of vendors, a lot of setup, if it's a pretty easy type of event, I think we can afford some flexibility with the budget.
Yeah. And it's such a great question. Like, so many venues have struggled with pricing. It's one of the biggest things that I get asked. They're asking me, how can I market my space to get more business? And then once they do have good marketing and they are getting leads, they're saying, how can I price my space to get more of these these inquiries to actually book?
Yeah.
But yeah, that flexibility and kind of having the person that's actually speaking with you in mind when you build your pricing is great. At the same time, I would argue and say, like, what about a venue that just does a ton of volume? Like, we work with wedding venues that are like doing over 120, 130 events per year. They kind of put their business on rails. Would you say that type of venue would just do well from just keeping their pricing set and standard?
Yeah, because it's based on supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
In LA, you are competing with a lot of venues. There's a lot of different types of venues. There are also, your turnkey venues that are bars, restaurants, nightclubs, versus event venues specifically that they're going to have a very different margin structure. They're going to have a different sales structure, because if you're specifically an event space and you are not doing, for example, the food and beverage in-house, you probably have a little bit less flexibility with pricing in overall. Yeah, you can have a range, but it's still going to be a little bit less flexible for the rental fees than a place that is a turnkey venue, has all the food and beverage in-house. You still have to be flexible, you still have to be dynamic, whereas a nightlife venue, for example, could reduce the rental fee but get the margins in the bar service. If you're a restaurant, you could make the food and beverage be, the bulk of the revenue source and less on the rental. I mean, I know venues that even don't charge a rental fee at all, and they just have a food and beverage minimum, for example.
Yeah.
With event venues specifically, you have to be mindful that you are renting the space, and that is a little bit different.
For sure. Going back to your role is sales and driving bookings for the venues we have at Don't Be Sour, what tools and like systems do you find help you the most when it comes to actually like making your life and your job easier?
Well, in terms of tools, definitely Tulen has been very helpful because
Yeah.
it has helped streamline all of the inquiries, all of the leads. So that's been really, really helpful. Having great venues to work with, obviously.
Yeah.
Listen, I can talk all day and I can sell all day, but if the venue isn't really a great event space, or it's in a terrible location, or it has impediments that make it not suitable for events, it doesn't matter what you do. You could market
No amount of trees, no amount of makeup on
no
the
amount of
pig is ever going to
exactly.
make it.
Exactly. So I think that that is super important because at the end of the day, you know, the venue is the product for Don't Be Sour.
100%.
And thankfully, we have really great venues that we work with. So it makes the sales process easier for sure.
How much does like cross-selling play a role in what you do? I mean, like we get a lot of leads. I think we're on close to like 100 a week right now. And so how, like, obviously not everybody's going to be a great fit for each venue, but how do you approach the conversation of placing someone at a different space if for whatever reason their budget isn't a good fit or they didn't like this first space that you showed them?
Right. So because we have such a wide breadth of different style venues,
Yeah.
right? Different sizes, different locations geographically, we are able to push a lot of the leads into some of the other locations if they don't work as well, say where the original lead generated from, right?
Yeah.
So we are very fortunate in that end. And I would say that, I mean, it happens every week. Like I just had a client who had a first right of refusal for a setup date at the Lillian. So they took it. And I sent the lead that was coming in for that specific date somewhere else because I honored the first right of refusal for the client that had the date on hold. So that happens a lot. It's nice to have the venues that you can send them to.
Yeah.
So like I said, we're very fortunate in that end.
Yeah. If you're a venue owner with multiple locations, like training your team on cross-selling spaces is one of the highest ROI things you can do.
Oh, if you're not doing that, you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
That client should not be able to leave your circle.
Yeah.
It should stay within your circle.
You're booking one of our venues if you come talk to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It also depends. I mean, if you only have like 2 venues, then that might be a little bit different. But yeah, that's a huge advantage. And I think it comes back to the point of building a relationship, right? So you're building a relationship with a person. Maybe the venue's not a great fit, but they like you. And so they decide they want to work with you, and that helps them. Maybe they make an exception. Or if you have a bunch of great venues, then they're going to end up booking one of the spaces, which is super helpful. I'm always curious about this because I actually, like, as much as people might think, I don't have that depth of experience in actually sales within the event industry. How do you manage your pipeline? Like, how do you keep up with like the 50 or 100 different people that are like engaged and interested, and at the end they're close to booking, but they're not like there yet? How do you keep that all organized and not like, I mean, lose everything and lose track of what does need to be followed up?
Right. Well, thankfully, Tulen is a very helpful tool for that because the way the system works, it allows you to create space for the events that are closing, that are close to closing and that are in a finalizing category or the contract has already been sent to that particular client. So it's just a matter of following up in terms of like, have they submitted the payment yet? Or are we just at the very end where we just need to follow up to get a signature on the contract? That's helpful, but also just in general, at any given point, at any given day, I am interacting with a lot of people through the pipeline, and it's a matter of just really staying on top of your leads and staying on top of your process.
Yeah. Do you have any like tactical advice on like do you like write out like note cards, or like do you have like something that you use to keep track of everything, or is it just like it's all up here and you just have to be that type of person?
It's systematic. You got to clear your inbox. You got to clear your inbox. And in Tulen, we call them leads, and that is what it is. And we just got to clear it. Like today, there's 21 leads on that Tulen system for just one of our venues.
Yeah.
I will get to bed after those are done.
Cool. I mean, that sounds like a great strategy. To kind of sum it all up or wrap it up, if you want to run a successful venue and have great sales, you have to be responsive. You have to respond quickly. You have to have some sort of organization system for yourself so that people don't get run over, people don't get forgotten. And then also you have to be flexible in this market and just in general. I think that if you're just selling space, you don't have a full service package, or you're not selling, I guess, like a specific service and a specific outcome. Like, for example, the wedding venues that we work with in other states where it's just a wedding and they have everything laid out. If you're selling space, you have to be flexible. You have to offer like unique pricing. You have to meet people where their needs are and take the time to understand what person or prospect actually wants.